Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. You're watching Sky 847. I'm Bilal Ali Hugh and this is It Takes Two. I'm joined by my co-host today, Ruby Sowa. Assalamu alaikum, Ruby.
Alaikum salam, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm well. And this week we have Sheikh Mohammed with us. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Really like to welcome you on the It Takes Two.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Good to have you. Good to have you. So as you know, viewers, this is a program where we explore the challenges that naturally occur in marriage and try to help you to come up with solutions and ways of going forward and to live with more love and tolerance. So inshallah we'll jump into the first scenario. Okay guys? Alright, so the first letter reads, Dear It Takes Two, I am a 28-year-old woman who has been married for 3 years. Everything was fine between myself and husband until recently. After coming back from ziyarah, my husband suddenly decided to become more religious and wants to pursue a life studying in the Hawza. This new approach is having a big impact on my career, which involves traveling to many corporate and social events where pork and alcohol is served, along where music is also played in the background. The issue is causing countless arguments between us. I can't even have a simple conversation without him leading, without it leading to a religious debate. My family find his religious stance to be praiseworthy, but it leaves me frustrated as my husband isn't fluent in English. So his employment opportunities are limited, leaving me to be the main source of income in the household. What should I do? And it's from an anonymous sister in Stanmore. That is a very detailed question. It gives us quite a big perspective, Sheikh. I'd like to start off with yourself. I can get some of your insights.
Well, the problem seems to be multifactorial. And there's various aspects to it. You can see already from the question, although the sister, may Allah help her in her issues, has not elucidated on all of them, but just from what she's saying, you can already point out 2 or 3 several factors and facets there are to this issue. One of the main issues, I'll just a bit secondary, but to start with the first one, the issue about her feeling that she has to go to these corporate events where alcohol is served, pork is served, and there's music going on in the background or whatever that scenario. Obviously that comes to mind. It's going to raise alarm bells for anyone who's listening with regards to the Islamic perspective on that kind of gathering. We do have narrations from the Holy Prophet as well as from the later Imams, peace be upon them, that forbids a person from sitting at a table where alcohol is drunk or served. Well, wine in those days, we didn't have beyond wine any alcohol, but where wine was served or an intoxicant is served and drunk. So this would cause problems or questions perhaps that the sister might need to ask herself before we would delve further into the issue. Pork, obviously she's not eating it, inshallah, but it's being served there. That's not such a problematic issue if we were in the presence of someone where the pork is being eaten. But the alcohol is the one which, raises alarm bells. Music, there are different opinions on music. What kind of music? Music has different genres, and etc., etc. So that again, it's not so clear cut. But the
it doesn't sound like the music. Sorry to cut you, but it doesn't sound like the music is like they're not gathering to listen to. It's not music during the event. Is it like something in the background quietly just playing?
But the big alarm bells are going to go off with the alcohol situation, especially when there are so many explicit ahadith about that. I remember some time back. We haven't got into the issue yet, but just this aspect of it. Some time back, one of our own teachers, when we were studying in the Hawza, one of the brothers came on with a football kit top on, which was of a certain football team, which was advertising alcohol or a certain alcoholic beverage across the front of it. And the teacher immediately reproached him that you should not be wearing this. He said, but it's just a kit, I'm not drinking it. Or he said, yes, but Allah says in the Quran, help each other towards Allah. وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا بِالْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. Do not assist one another in sin and going against the religion. That the teacher saw as an act by which he was promoting alcohol, if not drinking it himself. In a certain way, it could be said that this kind of gathering, if it's not absolutely necessary in order to put food on the table for the family, which is something that the sister also mentioned in the letter, that she's the sole breadwinner or the main breadwinner. if she can go into another line of work whereby it's not absolutely necessary for her to go to those gatherings, which may imply very implicitly that she is supportive, or she finds this kind of gathering okay, or the drinking of alcohol to be something all right, that she's ready to mix, even if she doesn't drink it herself, but she's ready to accept that kind of atmosphere, might be seen to be problematic first of all. And then perhaps we can go into some of the deeper issues within this problem.
Marital issues, or the actual marital side of things. What's your thoughts, Ruby? What's your first
thoughts? I just wanted to put my own spin on it, if I may, just to respectfully kind of put my spin on it with the Sheikh's thoughts as well. Being in a corporate environment, there are many occasions where we could go to a restaurant. It could be a pizza restaurant, whatever kind of a restaurant. And most restaurants, I've even gone to Islamic restaurants where there is alcohol present. It doesn't mean that it's served. And there are many functions that you literally have no control over, where you walk into, especially in the West, where most of the people, you know, are have Western values, have a drink. It's not that you want to be there, but it's part of your work. In order to meet managers, you know, even on occasions such as public holidays, such as Christmas and stuff, they will have alcohol in the office. You cannot dissect yourself from that situation, because it's part of your job. And a lot of the environments that you go to, it will be present. Now, you might be very lucky where, for example, with myself, people understand that, you know, alcohol would be offensive to me, but you can't help it if there's a waitress around and there's other people there, and there are environments where you can't control, which are part of your work. So with this sister, I think what she's saying is, look, I cannot control my environment. I may walk into a hotel and be ordering a meal with my colleagues having a meeting, and there's alcohol there. What am I meant to do?
That's fully understandable, but that's why I was saying, if it's unavoidable, then you have to do what you have to do, especially in order to put food on the table for your family, especially if she's one of the sole breadwinners or the main breadwinner.
Because it is different if it's a drinking event. People meet up for a drink, and the Muslim people, knowing people meet up for a drink, we avoid this. You take the, but you're meeting around something different. But the Western culture is drink is in the background, milling around everywhere. You know.
But despite that, just to give the more conservative Islamic opinion on it, is that even that situation whereby no one's going there to drink, but as you said, in the Western culture and in the British culture, they drink alcohol as tea. So I mean, it's more or less everywhere. It's very difficult to separate yourself from that. Despite that, the classical or traditional or more conservative rulings on that would be that one is not allowed to sit at a table, and I'm not going to skew that, maybe I'm saying another table or whatever it is, but at a table where alcohol is served and consumed. So and again, if it's unavoidable, if she has to feed her family, all this is understandable. And in this environment, I can fully appreciate that it must be most difficult to avoid those situations. But in as far as possible, if she's able to avoid it, then that might be a good course of action, if she can change that aspect of it somehow.
It'll be more helpful, inshallah. Okay, but let's look at, if we can look into another aspect, I guess the more human dynamic aspect. And this is her and her husband have gone for ziyarah, mashallah. He's come back religiously inspired, and he wants to go and study in Hawza. It all sounds good, but maybe his methodology is he's jumping in with both feet. He's somewhat zealous by the sounds of it.
You know, I think again, there's lots of things, and I don't want to judge the situation without having any first-hand knowledge of it. But it seems that there's a lot of underlying issues here. She's working in the corporate world, means she's probably, if not born, then raised in a Western environment and very used to it,
or at least westernized. Right?
Westernized, at least. He, as far as he says, his English is not very good. Means what we can see from here is they're coming from two very different cultural backgrounds. From a more conservative background, the man has dominance on the family. It's a very patriarchal setting. Iran, Iraq, Pakistan, before we entered the Western diaspora of Muslims, that's how systems used to work. Even all of Arabia is still a very patriarchal society in many parts of those parts. Now she's grown up here, she's earning here. he may say, I want to do this or I want to do that, but how much is she willing to be? And it's somewhat emasculating, you can imagine, for the man to be in a position where the woman is the main breadwinner, where that's not what he's used to. And very difficult now for the woman if he's trying to call the shots that we should do this and we should do that, when she's living her own kind of life and is not willing to relinquish that. So a main issue, well, it seems like there's a big issue, it's a real culture clash. And we've been married for, it says, 3 years. Once we fade off the honeymoon period, and then the culture clashes come to the surface, now a person or a couple needs to know how to resolve these differences of opinion and differences of wants. And you see, and this is what I'm going to put my own 2 pence in.
You're going to do your own spin. Go
I'm
for
going
it.
to put my own on it. In the Islamic environment, and this has seeped into the jurisprudential rulings, we the jurisprudence looks at the marital relationship in that paradigm of the man as the breadwinner who has paid the dowry, they're now married, the woman is now obligated to obey him, to fulfill his needs and desires. So he's done his bit and bringing the money in. She has to now look after him in a domestic fashion.
Yeah.
Now, in 2017, in the West, in the UK, even if both of elements of that couple, say, were brought up in the UK, there's a very different dynamic. We can't look at the things through that paradigm anymore. That the man should be the head of the family, he calls the shots, she has to be obedient. And we have so many hadiths about this, yes, that the woman should be obedient to the husband, the woman, how much thawab she gets and how much reward she gets if she's obedient and if she's tolerant, and very little about how the man, we have some, but it's much less. Remember, that's coming, all those ahadith have come from a context and an environment which was very male-dominated, dare I say, misogynistic. We've inherited that, but our context has changed. Should she now, this is the question, so raising the question, should she be governed now by what, she's the main breadwinner now. We're not only in that context where he represents his tribe. And remember, in those times, marriage used to be, the dowry wasn't always paid to the woman, it is now. It was paid to the father, the brother, the tribe.
To the patriarch, yeah.
Yes. We don't live in that context anymore. She's earning, she has her own intelligence, her own life, her own rights, and she recognizes them. She says, I'm not willing to do this. I'm not willing to really. There needs to be an understanding on both sides now, as opposed to what one person might be. So I'm not saying that this particular scenario, it might be, it might not be, that one person calls the shots, being the male, should be the dominant of the two parties, and she has to obey and relinquish. We don't live in that anymore, in that environment anymore. However, when we ask about what is the rights here, what are his rights, what are her rights, the whole institution of marriage has really been recontextualized and re-understood now in our environments. We don't talk about rights anymore as much, because marriage is not something platonic that it used to be in those days. It was a contractual agreement between two tribes. I pay you, I get her, she serves my needs. We don't live in that environment anymore. Now marriage is not about rights and payment. And marriage in Islamic law, if we're looking at Islamic law, is a contract. And if you look at under the books of Islamic law, it comes under contracts as buying and selling and all of these issues. Marriage is a contract. One person, two parties are involved, one person pays, the other person has to fulfill.
Offer and acceptance, yep.
Absolutely. And so as a result of that, the implication is there are duties on one end, there are duties on the other end. One is a financial duty, one is a duty in other ways. We don't live in that context anymore. We're talking about contracts and paying and duties. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about man and woman in the Quran. If we want to see the Quran, its principal message is everlasting. Allah says, and we made man and woman, وَجَعَلَ, and Allah put between them, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً. He put love between you. It's no longer a platonic robotic relationship. I paid, you serve me, we listen to this is my rights, these are your rights. There needs to be a much more, or let's talk about rights and more talk about how we can make this home
cooperation.
Flourish. Yes, on the basis of love, on the basis of, as the Prophet said, Islam has no institution which is more blessed than that of marriage. I mean, these kind of issues or these kind of sentiments need to come into it, rather than, oh, well, let's see what my rights are, what rights are. Should I obey him? Do I have to do this? What's he going? Is this
So
really
Sheikh,
Islam?
let me just jump in there. I'm gonna come back because we are gonna tax you for your insights. But I did want to get Ruby. I want to get your take, because the sister's saying, "What should I do?" And I'm trying to understand: do they both need to adjust from your perspective? And if there is an adjustment on both sides, what could take place? What needs to take place?
Well, I frankly feel that this brother feels a bit displaced. I think he's one of those brothers making huge assumptions here, huge, that she's the main breadwinner. His English isn't very good, so his job prospects isn't that great. So what's he done? He wants to feel proactive. So what has he gone to? Let me go to a Hawza and feel that, you know, I'm now doing something and I'm going to be the one to bring the spiritual upliftment here. And basically he's gone there and he's got all gung-ho about it, and he's come back with this knowledge, and he's like, okay, on every section we're going to change it. It sounds like his personality has somewhat changed, because they've been married for 3 years now. He's walking around, you know, everything going back to the letter is some Islamic debate. If she wants to put margarine on the bread, you know, we should use butter. And it sounds just like he's feeling that, you know, he's been illuminated with this knowledge, and he has to, you know, almost like other sects in Islam, you know, totally turn our lives around, because, you know, I've been enlightened, and, you know, I'm the husband, and here I am. And she's thinking to herself, excuse me, let's remember, okay, when you're in Rome, that was lovely, because most people in Rome have a certain lifestyle. We're in London. You might have to get on the bus. There might be some issues. Are you now going to debate whether you should use your Oyster card? Should you? I mean, for goodness sake. So she's thinking to herself, probably.
So how can she bring him back on track, or
I think
how can they unify? Because it's bringing a wedge, and you would hope that him going away to study and gain ilm is like a good thing. So then why would it, you know, it shouldn't be the cause of,
because
so it might be to do with attitude.
What's
for
happened
example.
is he's gone, and they, again, it's all about communication. I say with everything you need to plan. When you go on a holiday, you plan. There's insurance. If something goes wrong, what are you going to do? I don't know what she expected that he was going there for, other than to seek Islamic knowledge. So the fact that he's done that and come back and wants to apply it, it's not really a shock. Oh, unless his intention was, I don't know, to go for some sun, but you could go to other places.
No, he was going for knowledge. He was going for knowledge.
So, you know, it shouldn't be a shock, but they should have had a discussion as to, okay, what are the reasons why he went there? What does he feel to get out of it? Is he going to do anything with this knowledge? And I think they should have prepared themselves, and she should have also prepared herself for some kind of change. When we come back from holiday, often you find that we can't naturally go back into our jobs because we're still on holiday mode. We're aggrieved of having to start at 9 o'clock, and we're sitting here and we still feel like, oh, you know, that euphoric feeling that we've come back on holiday. And this is what's happened to the brother. I think I think he needs to get back into the routine, and he needs to make an adjustment in his mind for himself to marry the two things up.
Does she, as a wife with hikmah, gently encourage that change, that reclimatization?
Well, the problem with encouraging that change, he might go completely the other way and be like,
start pounding the
this is why we can't talk. I think you now need to go to Rome, and let's, I don't know what we're going to live off, but you go there. So the problem, I think she needs to be patient and give him time, because he needs to reacclimate himself to the surroundings that he lives in. And in his own mind, he has to marry up what he's learnt and how to apply it practically to his life. I think she needs to be very patient, because he's probably, let's look at it this way, he's very moved by what he's just learnt, and he wants to apply it. There's no harm in that, but it's the way he's going about it which would drive me insane, and most women insane, as to commentating on everything.
You know, also I think what's an important dynamic is the fact that he is not the main breadwinner. That is going to bring well, it seems that it enters a bit of a problem, because it's going to be harder, you know, for a man to be the emir and his wife is paying paying the
That-
way. I know
that's
in
But
ancient,
he
because I
hasn't
know.
mentioned that in the letter. There's no inkling that, you know, he's sitting there feeling, oh, what am I going to do with my time? Or he chose to go to home because he had nothing to do.
That wasn't
Maybe it was
stated expressly,
appalling.
but she said that because of his year and how it hit him spiritually, he's decided to go and study. But she said, however, because his English is not good, he's living here. His English is not good, so his employability, his earning capacity is being impeded. And so what I'm saying, I'm just thinking about on a psychological level. It's difficult. Many marriages, many marriages in the West, not just Muslims, but people where there's a dynamic where it's very difficult at times for men to be the one that is earning less. Some men are
It's a bit
secure.
emasculating.
Yeah, it's emasculating.
Yeah.
Some men are secure in themselves. They're confident. They have other things they bring
this
to the
is- this is
table.
where
But
I'm
much of the
picking up
time, I mean, even doesn't the Quran
This is
talk
what I'm
about
picking up.
is it Prophet Suleiman?
Right.
And he speaks about the Queen of Sheba and
Yes.
like this kind of, it kind of gives us a story of the dynamic of him having certain, let's say, being able to, you know, show his kind of status. But it wouldn't for any man to approach.
But he
you know,
was,
any
he
type of
was
woman.
in Sulaiman himself was very powerful. But
Yeah.
our own situation here, which is what I was saying when you mentioned just a couple of moments ago, it's going to be difficult for him to be the.
To assert himself, you mean? Is that?
Well, you said to be the Amir.
Yeah.
Yes. Whilst he is not the breadwinner, she's the. That's what I'm saying. In a kind of Eastern paradigm, we have this kind of, you know, the patriarchal. We don't live in that context anymore. And so I know numerous couples who were born maybe, or even at least raised and educated in the UK or in the Western world, married, both of them from the UK, and sometimes it happens, many a time it happens, that civil rights, equal education, she ends up earning a bit more than he does. But that doesn't seem to cause a conflict in their relationship.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to. But you see, because over here we've grown up knowing that my wife doesn't need to be demeaned, or she doesn't need to succumb to my every wish and desire, and I am over her and she's beneath me and I call the shots. We didn't grow up in that kind of environment.
We grew up in an environment more of a partnership.
Yes. And I think what needs to happen here for the marriage to continue successfully after these first 3 years, both need to recognize that we need to work on this together. If he wants to pursue something, perhaps she can adjust things in a certain way that maybe allows him to pursue his studies. And if she wants to
Should be
continue
an
to
asset
work,
to his studies
Absolutely.
if they
Absolutely.
can unify, if they can come together.
But if I've grown up in that environment where I should be the calling and I should be bringing the
Halal
bacon home, exactly, yeah, then it's going to be very difficult for me, which is why I discussed at the very beginning, it seems like there seems to be a culture clash here where he may have grown up or been acclimatized to a certain environment which is somewhat male-dominated, and that doesn't fly over here.
But surely they should have known this before they got married. Surely what attracted him to her possibly is the fact that
She was a bright woman.
she's a bright
brings a
woman,
lot to the
that
table.
there would
very
be a
difficult.
good
It's very difficult to
future.
discuss before all that. They're attracted to each other physically. They're attracted to each other in certain ways, and she's very bright, but it's difficult to foresee until we step into those shoes that how it's going to work out in the dynamic, in the domestic.
But you would think, I'm thinking a brother must anticipate, I am a traditional person, for example, I've got traditional values, when I mean traditional, I mean like old school values, and this is I'm going to marry a graduate who's a
moving to
working
such
woman
and
who's
such
upwardly
country.
mobile, I'm moving from a traditional country to this rapid, cosmopolitan,
the
fast
language
moving,
pop.
Which is why I mean,
place.
it's not going to help this particular situation of this sister, but as a preventative issue for prevent this kind of friction.
For future challenges.
Yes,
yeah.
these things, especially for those who are in the business of matchmaking, or even those who are introducing themselves to prospective partners.
Yeah.
This compatibility factor or lack thereof really needs to be looked. It's not just about is she religious or does she love God or good? Does she love the Ahlul Bayt or good? She's married. Does he love the Ahlul Bayt or he's married? It's something beyond that. You can look good and you can both be religious in your own paths and be soaring to Allah.
And religious is wide term, isn't it?
Yes, and the compatibility might not be there, which is a big problem.
But I was going to say, she probably paid for the ticket for him to go to Rome, and now he wants to come back and, be dictating left, right, and centre. It's a bit strange. But then I'm a bit surprised as well, because I don't think Rome is the type of place that they would be issuing fatwas left, right, and centre. So as soon as you get home, you know, step in rolling, don't come in with your right foot but jump or whatever.
But this issue, we've had questions like this, and we've had phone calls when we do the live show like this, where, you know, one spouse, for example, 'cause this one mentions that he took a change all of a sudden. So it was after the trip, he had this epiphany, this religious thing. But there's been times when we've had people speak about, for example, oh, my wife's been on a trip, or for whatever reason, and now she's wearing hijab, and now she's wearing burqa, and she's become so quiet, she's not laughing anymore, she's become religious. And so there's almost like, there's a synonym in some people's mind where religiosity means oozing the fun and the laughter and the spontaneity out of their personality.
Yeah. But there may be, maybe, underlying issues which are unresolved. For example, with the situation or not, a man and a woman, he might feel emasculated, he might feel this and that and aggrieved at certain things, and this issue is simmering, and then you need a trigger just to, you know,
powder keg. Yep.
And that trip to the Middle East or ziyarah or whatever might have been that, you know, that trigger, unfortunately, which
the environment may have made him, you know, reminisce about how things were wherever he came from, the good old days. Exactly. And
but I mean, as I think you mentioned, the key, I mean, this has already happened, this is 3 years into the marriage, communication is just of paramount importance, especially if we see issues are simmering underneath. I'm aggrieved at something my wife is doing. She doesn't like my conduct, and we don't talk to each other about the elephant in the room. And we all carry on as if everything is going well. Mm-hmm. We don't have, it's awkward to talk about, hang on a second, can you sit down? I don't like the way you're doing this. Please, can we change for the sake of our marriage and our relationship? It's difficult. It's not easy to do that. Especially if you haven't built up communication from day one. And then these awkward issues are avoided, and still simmering until something comes, and then there's a lot of friction. Suddenly, as the sister said, you know, suddenly you get right foot in and left foot in and jumping in, and all of these, the zeal comes into it and all that. But communication is of paramount importance, especially you can imagine if two parties of a relationship have come in from very different social backgrounds, and then there's a lack of communication. What it's asking for.
But part of me wants to also say, what did she expect was going on in Qom? It's not Dubai where you're going to shopping malls. This is.
Well, this is a ziyarah trip.
They went for a ziyarah, right? He got hit with a spiritual high, and then he decided
to. But that's what the place is. Most people go there for that, or for some spiritual enlightenment.
Well, she might have been spiritually enlightened as well to a certain degree, but she didn't expect to come back and have every jurisprudential law drummed in every second of the day.
Because I think, as the time has gone so quickly, but what I was going to say is that I think ultimately she needs to communicate with her husband. They do need to have that kind of conversation
with one another,
so they can start that dialogue. I think that even although it's been, obviously this is put across in her perspective that he's come across as, he seems quite zealous now. He may even be right in a lot of the things that he's saying, but sometimes even being right, there's a methodology, there's a hikmah to how you want to give advice and encourage the next person to try and attain the next level. He probably means the best for his wife. And she means the best for him. So inshallah, we hope that they can resolve things amicably. Sheikh Mohammed, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Sister Ruby, as always, thank you. And thank you all for staying with us for the duration of It Takes Two, and we hope to see you next week. Assalamu alaikum.